Do we have to do the clap? Yeah, there's this one.
Oh, is that an edge? It is! Bamber's done it again.
Episode 1 of what we're hoping to be is a long series of podcasts with us here at Tlnt. We've come up with the idea many months ago about talking about the human behind the athlete. Obviously here at Lords today with lawnmowers, ground staff, all getting prepared for Thursday against Derby.
Yeah.
Against Derby. So obviously Ethan is to my left, fundamentally a client of mine, a friend. I've become very close friends with him over the last 2 years. So it's just about understanding what Ethan's about, what makes him tick, what he does off the field. We'll go into what his involvement is with opening up cricket. So we'll go into that. But first and foremost, Ethan.
Hiya.
Talk to me about the preparation from winter. Talk to me about your expectations of the summer. How's the winter gone?
Winter's been really good. It's been really nice to have everyone around. I think, you know, because of a number of different circumstances, everyone's been back. No lads really in Australia, bar a couple, and that's quite unusual. And it's actually been really, really nice, especially in a transition phase, I suppose, that the club has been in terms of its coaching staff, and perhaps the direction it's looking to move in. To have everyone about, it's been a fantastic winter. It's been the first winter we've been based fully here. So in the past we've been dotted all around at indoor schools and gyms, and and it's been so great. We've had breakfast here every day, training in the indoor school, and it's just felt like a real like workplace, and I think the boys feel in a really good place going into Thursday.
Good.
Obviously that is when, you know, those things get tested, and when you see the real effect of the work that you've done, and exactly. But I think in terms of where you can hope to be at this point, I would say we're there. Good.
And you feeling good? Feeling good? Body feeling good?
Yes, that's good. Body feeling good. I never like. I always like to caveat that with at the moment. But
So we talked about earlier when we first sat down. We talked about targets. We know we're not particularly keen on talking about specific targets. I know you don't like talking about your own success. You're very, very humble about that. But obviously, last season was phenomenal. You had a great season, 50 odd wickets, let's call it 50 odd. Talk to me about this season. What's your ambitions moving forward into this season? Is that to continue to do what you did last year, play more formats of cricket? What makes Ethan Bamber better this year than he was last year?
Very good question. I suppose the easiest way to do it is to try and split it. I think on a wider level, my real ambition for this year is to make sure that I absolutely commit to every single thing I do to get the best out of myself. That is the kind of the measure that I use. I think for me, I've always struggled with goal setting and things like that.
Okay.
So I find that a much easier metric than trying to chase wickets and stuff. I know that doesn't bring the best out of me.
Okay.
In terms of a more kind of tangible one, I feel I still need to nail down my place in that championship side. We've got a phenomenally competitive seam bowling department.
Absolutely.
We've got Shaheen coming in, guys bowling brilliantly. It's going to be really tough.
Great problems to have.
Great problems to have, yeah, exactly. And so I want to do myself justice, the place I'm in, and in how I bowl, to make sure that I am in contention in teams. And when I'm out there, I think one of the biggest things for me is this year, again, this may seem strange, I really want to play the game in front of me and what the team needs, rather than what Ethan needs or what Ethan's technique is feeling on the pitch, which I've definitely been guilty of doing in the past. So I want to play against the batter and the game, which I've sometimes struggled with. And I really, really want to develop my white ball game.
Okay.
I loved the one-day competition last year. It was a great opportunity for me to show to myself as much as anyone that I can actually perform in white ball cricket.
Yeah, absolutely.
And despite my horrendous 2020 record, I loved those 5 games I played. Playing here against Surrey was just one of the best experiences of that summer. I just loved it, even though I got absolutely whacked. And so, again, I've got a long way to go in that, skills-wise in that. Of course. But I feel just in myself and how I view myself on the pitch, I'm in a better place than I was this time last year, for sure.
Well, as an agent, that's basically music to my ears, right? That you constantly feel like you're progressing, constantly feel like you're going to the next stage, constantly feel like you're getting better as a cricketer. That for me is perfect. I think for me, it was phenomenally amazing. Well, I can't remember words that really, but it was amazing to watch you succeed. Especially, obviously, I know everyone banters you that you only take wickets here, but taking wickets here is great to see. Obviously, now with COVID finishing, we can all come in and watch more games.
Yeah.
Even more exciting.
Thanks.
I think, from my perspective, it was great to see you in the white ball stuff. I know you have a burning ambition to continue to do that. So it's great to hear that you're feeling good in your skill sets and things like that. And again, from an agency capacity, that's all I can ever wish to hear from. Yeah. I think we can delve loads into cricket. You get asked about cricket a lot. Yeah. I'm sure you do with everyone, but from my point of view, this is an opportunity for me to open up to you and have a discussion with you about what we've been through. As a relationship, and it sounds a bit glorified, but as in our relationship between an agent and a player. And I feel very blessed with our relationship. We all had difficult times in COVID. We all had difficult times in all these sort of different areas that have been, especially over the last couple of years. And actually, hilariously, that's been the time that we've been working together. We've done 2 deals together. We've seen you succeed. It's been a joy to watch you become who you are now, and I'm excited to see where you're moving forward. But the moment that I think I became even more, it sounds a bit lovey-dovey, but more proud of what you're doing is how you carry yourself off the field as well. Like, it's unanimous through county cricket that you're just a genuinely lovely bloke, caring, considerate, the list goes on. I've never heard about, but I've spoken about you, right? So when we started to see you doing stuff with Opening Up Cricket, that for me was a really interesting thing. I've listened to all your podcasts. You're very eloquent with how you speak. It's something that I think we all need to talk about. And again, in this podcast, I think it's important that we do talk about it, because the agency shift between a player and its agent was really phenomenal. And we've spoke about it before we started, that I had a bad time going through lockdown. I opened up to you, and I remember thinking, Christ, should I be doing this? Because it kind of gets to a point where you think, here comes a lawnmower. But that sort of conversation is, I don't want him to think, oh crikey, he's not going to be able to do his job because he's had a bit of a wobble in his personal life. And you made a beautiful statement, which I'll always remember, and you flipped it. I won't quote it word for word, but you almost said, I respect you more as an agent now that you've been able to tell me that. And that moment for me was like a really pivotal moment. And it was like, okay, there is a human behind the athlete and there is a human behind the agent. But you got lovely family, ridiculously supportive, and it got me thinking, athletes, you're very, I think you'd confess that you're quite lucky in that sense.
Very,
you've got a great support network, and great colleagues here, and a great family. So yeah, talk to me about again, we talk about, you don't want it to be like, feel like you're having a sob story. It's not, it's about raising awareness of the stigma around mental health. Absolutely. So talk to me, how is the opening up stuff going? And also, that's a thank you for allowing me to open up to at that point. So I think it's really interesting to see what you're doing there. It's clearly very successful. I think it's really important that you continue to do that. So what is moving forward with opening up? What's the next stage with you on that? Where are you moving with it?
Well, if I can, I'll come to open up in a sec, but actually it's interesting you say it like that, because I see it the other way almost, which is when we kind of were first introduced to each other, which should have been kind of October 2020, I think.
Absolutely,
I had just had a difficult summer, and you're right, you mentioned that I am sometimes hesitant to talk about this stuff because I don't want to come across some kind of figure who's kind of been through this phoenix from the ashes, who's been through and done all this amazing, had this really difficult time and is now great, because there's a lot of people who carry much heavier burdens, and it's a journey that's very much ongoing. But when we spoke and when we first met, we went for lunch in town in that October. I had always been really reluctant about the idea of an agent. Firstly, because I didn't really need one at my stage in my career. I was just trying to still break properly into the first team here. And I think also because of the reputation that agents and managers and representation has in the game, which is, as you say very eloquently, not a reflection of the fact that they are people. And in my very brief experience of professional sport, what I've realised is the higher you go, the less it becomes about the sport, the more it becomes about people. And the best coaches I've worked with are the best people managers. Technically, of course, there's always areas you can improve in things, but really it's those relationships, the empathy, the ability to have conversations that are going to help you move forward.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely the same in the space that we work together.
Yeah.
And when we had that lunch and we chatted for about 3 hours, I reckon.
Yeah, it was a long one. Yeah, it was a long one.
I felt that massively, and I knew in that moment that actually, for us, or for me entering into that agreement, it was with someone who I felt I could talk to. It was with someone I felt I could talk to and who would actually care. Can I swear, Lewis? No. Would give a shit about me as a person rather than just whether I took any wickets. And that is not what I had thought agents would be like. So you don't have to thank me, but I do have to thank you for allowing me to do that. More specifically to opening up. That's something that came kind of, Mark, who runs Opening Up, I think reached out through the PCA to a number of different counties and basically said, anyone who wants to get involved, get involved. Yeah. And it was quite serendipitous timing really for me. I like talking, as you can probably tell. I find that talking helps me to understand things in my own head as much as anything. And over a number of different conversations with Mark and reflecting on my own experiences and chatting to some of the boys here, I think what I would like to get across through my stuff with Opening Up is that every person has mental health, and more particularly every sports person has mental health, and it's often good and it's sometimes less good, and actually so many of our experiences are shared but kept quiet inside our own heads, and it's not for everyone talking, it's not for everyone sharing, and that's fine. Absolutely. But I think for people to feel they have the ability and the capacity to speak openly and speak with honesty in an environment that is supportive and non-judgmental is really important. Vital. Particularly within professional sport, which has a reputation obviously of being quite macho and alpha. Absolutely. And I hope that some of the stuff that I do and trying to share people's experiences can help the maybe very few people who read it understand that actually they're not alone in what they may or may not be going through. Absolutely. And there is a way through it. Yeah. And that's I do feel quite strongly about that. So,
well, I think also like it's becoming more widely discussed, right? Well, Pogba's come out and said he's got depression or he's had really low times. And I think on the face of it, you look at Paul Pogba and go, he plays international football, he earns a load of money, he's got the great life. Listen, I'm sure he has a good time some of the time, but it's not to suggest that people just almost think, oh, well, he's smashing it. What has he got to moan about? Why? How is it possible? How can he possibly have any issue? But it's great to talk about it, and I think we talk about, as an agency, we're an extension, and I don't want it to sound like we're glorifying what we do, but that relationship that we have with our players, or I have with you and I have with all the other boys, is something that I'm really proud of. And I think some players are quite happy for me just to do the deal. And that's it. And I'll be in the background, and I quite like to be in the background. It's a bit, in many ways, it feels uncomfortable to be on camera now talking about it. But I think it's important that we discuss what you've been through, how that dynamic looks like, and how to discuss how people need to talk about it moving forward. Like, the more people that I start to delve into, even players that I think are quite confident, quite happy, they're like, I'm really struggling, or this is going on in my life, and from my job, if I don't know that, I think shame on me. If they don't want to open up, that's fine. But if I don't know that, and I'm trying to do a deal for you, or I'm trying to help you out in any which way, and I don't know that, I'm kind of guessing. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of things, and having that sort of side of it does help, I think, massively.
And I think you're absolutely right, and such is the kind of world we live in now. Not I may be in a position to comment, but materialistic perceptions and what we have and what we achieve are so linked to what happiness must be and what contentment must be.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it's so the opposite of that. You know, if this 18 months has taught us anything, it's the importance of human connection. It's the importance of being with one another.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what's really important, you know, when people were struggling in lockdown, I don't think they were concerned about not being able to go to Louis Vuitton on Oxford Street, or, you know, they were concerned about not seeing the people they cared about.
Yeah, of course.
I think that speaks massively to what's important to us. I think also you're right, there's a real perception of sports people, and I listened to this fascinating podcast with a lady called Dr. Amy Izaki around the kind of champion narrative of sports people, and how, because they perform out there, what they must be like when they're here.
Yeah, in their personal
and actually,
life,
you know, they couldn't be a big difference. It's like that old story, I don't know if you've heard about this clown, I can't remember his name, and he goes, there's a clown in town, right. And this man goes to see a doctor, and he says, "Doctor, I'm really depressed." And the doctor says, "Oh, well, you should go and see the clown." And he says, "Well, I am the clown."
Right. Okay.
And I don't know, it's just interesting. It's not that everyone, it's not to say, you know, the flip side of this, I'm always conscious of, is to say everyone's struggling, you know.
Oh, no, of course,
there's a difference between performance anxiety around going out and perform your skill under pressure, and really struggling, and it's really important to understand that differentiation, because
massively.
One is natural, a human experience, and one needs to be looked after. But people need to feel they have the space where they can talk, and the space where they can go to someone within the environment, particularly talking in sporting context here, and say, I'm struggling with something on the field, outside the field, but it's following me around and I can't be me.
It's clouding me.
And they need to know they can do that within an environment where it will not come back to bite them. I'm afraid I still believe that whilst mental health is talked about much more prominently, it's still on a surface, superficial level, and it's still talked about in a sense of, oh, you're struggling with mental health, okay, we'll go over there, and when you're fixed, come back here and speak to us. And that, I'm afraid,
not good enough.
Is not good enough.
No, you're right. And actually, talking about performance, because obviously you're an athlete, it's what you do, so you pay your bills. As an athlete who has performance anxiety, or have you ever experienced performance anxiety?
Yeah, I mean, I would go so far as to suggest that every single person has at some stage.
Do you know, I absolutely
to a greater or lesser degree.
I have to agree.
Some people are much better at coping with it.
Yeah.
I think anyone who says they don't get nervous or question something.
Walking out under lights here to a full crowd, you're telling me that's not nervy?
I spoke to a senior player the other day who was checking in on me, and who I would never have thought needed to feel, and no one would think they needed to feel nervous about playing or whatever, and they said, I still feel that. And you
doesn't
think,
matter how many games you played.
Exactly. Sorry, so go on.
No, I think that's really important to note, and I think.
But sorry.
No, please.
I signed up for that. I signed up for performance you know, for worrying 100%. About how I play. It's my job. And I think anyone who enters into professional sport knows that. What needs to be addressed is when that is a more systemic underlying issue. Okay, so away from your performance is so important. So I think from a performance side, what strategies have you come up with? I mean, or is that something you'd rather keep under wraps? No. So let's say you've
got the ball in your hand and you're feeling anxious.
Yeah. So it's.
What do you do?
Good question. So what the first thing to say is a work in progress. Okay. The second thing to do is I'm trying to make a real effort around the language I use to myself, and I'm made a habit of being quite self-deprecating and stuff, and I do genuinely struggle on the kind of confidence or imposter syndrome fun thing, but actually the language you use around yourself, just accepting a compliment rather than pushing it down. I saw this quote like being humble is not thinking less of yourself, just thinking of yourself less. So nice, quite like that. Nice. But on the pitch, I'm really trying to get into the right battle. I'm very good at fighting myself and my technique and technical work and stuff like that. So actually refocusing myself to the game, what's needed of me for the team in that moment helps me. Because it almost takes you out of the whole thinking about what you're doing and into the competition, which is what I love. And then you just snap back into that kind of muscle memory. And then I just got a couple of words that try and bring me back to my process. So I just say, I try and judge myself now on whether I've committed to a decision and then to the ball itself in terms of bowling.
Okay.
Because I can't control whether someone catches it, I can't control if they play a good shot. I might bowl a crap ball sometimes, and I often do, and I might bowl a great ball, which I wish happened more. But
of course,
when if I know that I've committed to it, then that's what I've done. And the other thing for me comes from the confidence in my preparation that I've done all the things I can to be as good as I can be. And if that means that I play one more game for Middlesex, if that means I never play again, if that means I play 100 more games, if I've pushed myself as far as I can and turned all those stones over, so to speak, then I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, well, you did as good as you could have done.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to note that there's probably, listen, it's our first ever podcast that we've done, but if there's a kid listening, it's the cliche. The kids listening, all they want to do is play cricket. I was one of those kids, but I've soon realised I wasn't particularly good. But there'll be cricketers that get the old cliche again. I've said the word cliche a lot. Yips. I'm struggling. Do you think that more positive self-talk is a really important thing? Is that something that you've just developed on your own, or have you got? Has the coaching staff helped you there, or how's that come about? Because I know we've probably spoken about it in the past. And I think we probably said, and I've said, Eth, I mean, I've called you before after you performed well. And I've said, well bowled, and you're like, yeah, it was all right, but it could have been better. And I remember sitting there going, I think I put the phone down once, and I just shook my head and laughed. And I think my missus actually at the time said, what's so funny? I said, well, this is only one occasion. And I said, he still wants to better himself. Now I'm conflicted when I'm thinking about that. I'm going, he wants to better himself, mega. But at the same time, he's just got fifer. Mega. Like, is that a fair assessment?
I think you can be satisfied. No, I think you can be happy and not satisfied.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm pleased with the performance, I think everyone does have high expectations of themselves, but I have particularly high expectations of myself.
Well, if you don't, you shouldn't be out there.
Well, exactly. I think, sometimes I wish I could hold on to things a little less tightly. And just let them
I hope that hasn't offended you by bringing that up. Because
No, I agree. I know it's a thing, and like, I think one of my biggest fears is being thought of as arrogant or complacent.
Right, I'm going to jump in at that point, right? So, your name often comes up because you had a brilliant year last year. Your numbers speak for themselves, and I'm not saying this because there's a camera in front of us, there's a mic in front of us. This is genuine. No one would ever; those words would never be aligned with you. That just wouldn't happen. So again, that's why I'm really appreciative of our relationship, and I'm really appreciative of. And if I know you'll hate this, but any cricketer wanting to achieve something in the game, those conversations are, well, I spoke to a young lad the other day who actually is not a cricketer, but he's young. He's trying to make his way in football. And I said, what are you doing off the field? Oh, well, I do a bit of gym. And I said, okay, what about your nutrition? How much are you sleeping? And the person in my head I was thinking about was you, because you do prepare really well, you get your sleep, you eat well, you're what people will always say is a proper professional. And I think that goes to show, and everyone always just goes, try hard and keep working hard and the results will come. And sometimes people go, oh yeah, but I've been unlucky, but actually in the 2 years that we've worked together, you've massively, like, I've kind of from afar, but kind of listened to I do obviously listen to what you say, and your processes are really, really impressive. And I speak to crackers and say about what you like, because you like your sleep. I've heard you like your sleep, and all these things are really
I'm the most boring 23-year-old in North London.
But listen, that has transpired into your success out there, which I think is a real testament to you actually, and long may that continue. So we talked about some pretty deep stuff, which I think is really super important, and those conversations need to continue. So I urge anyone to listen to your interviews and your podcasts with opening up. And for me, it's something that I continue to work on a personal level. And that vulnerability, and I'm sort of going around in tangents, but
No.
that sort of vulnerability that you've shown me, I've shown you, I think it needs to be reciprocated everywhere, I think, in so many ways. But you made a really valid point. Not everyone wants to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think also people share that vulnerability in different ways to different people. I have found talking about it to be useful, and maybe because of my job I've got a platform where I can reach a few people.
Absolutely.
And I suppose maybe that is one benefit of being a sports person. Just to touch on what you were speaking about earlier, I think it's very kind of you to say those things about those, about how I try and go about my life, I guess.
Your professionalism.
Yeah, and I think two things. One, I don't think I'm good enough to not try and get all my ducks in order. Definitely, I don't have that kind of talent that other people have. Yeah. But I think also it's about your priorities, and for me at the moment my priority is trying to get everything out clear on the cricket pitch. Now,
absolutely.
In 6 years or 7 years, I could be married, I might have a child, and my priority lifted in some way might change slightly. But at the moment, I'm very happy with that decision, and I'm comfortable with that, because I think it aligns with, not to sound too grandiose, but like the values that I hold. So that's fine for me, but it's not for everyone. And some people will find that really strange, and that's fine. And I think, going back to one of your even more earlier points, one of the things I have to be comfortable with is that the people who really know me will know what kind of person I am, and that actually when I'm on the pitch I need to play the game and not worry about what they think of me, which I've definitely been guilty of in the past. Almost trying to be everyone's best mate, too nice, because I don't want them to go back to the change room and say, and actually, you know what, when you're out there, fuck it, you've got such a good opportunity. That is such a privilege to be out there. That is maybe the one regret that I've had about cricket so far, is that sometimes I've been a little bit reserved and apologetic for being out there, so I'm hoping to shift that.
When you say apologetic to be out there, what do you mean by that? What, as in?
I just think almost not giving myself fully to the moment, because I'm worried that I might come across as overly competitive or overly aggressive, and
mate,
Joe Bloggs down the other end might go back to the change room and say, oh, he was a bit of a dick. And actually what I'm trying to realise now more is that I hope the people who matter to me and the people who have a conversation would come and know that I am who I am as a person, mate, and on the cricket field is different.
This is a really interesting point, mate, because I had this conversation with a very dear friend of mine the other day, and he was like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. And I called him out and it said lies. It's human instinct.
Of course you do, I love it.
Absolute lies. When no one sits there and says, oh, I don't care what people think of me, I'm just who I am. It's a lie. It's an outward lie. Everyone instinctively worries about what people think of them. But it's really interesting to hear what you're saying, and it's really fascinating to understand that. And it's kind of, for me, again, to be selfish and self-indulgent from my point of view, of course I want people to think I'm a good agent, think I'm a good person, and if you get too lost in that, it can cloud you a little bit.
And then almost after having kind of accepted that, there's almost a stage where you then go like, okay, I know I care about those things, but I then now just have to trust that my behaviours align and people will think that as a result.
That's the word.
Rather than trying to get them to. I
think you've nailed it there for me, and that's something that that's one of my key words, is trust it. Trust it, because you know you're a good person, you're a good cricketer, all those things, but then that self-doubt comes in, and you're actually just trusting the process and trusting that actually you're a good person. That's something that I've massively reflected on over this pretty rough period for everyone, but for me in particular. But trusting that, you used the word imposter syndrome. I think everyone naturally feels that way. I don't think anyone, and everyone listens to Stephen Bartlett's
Diary of a CEO, great.
He said something about imposter syndrome and said, if you don't have imposter syndrome, you're in the wrong room. And it's a really interesting analogy, and I remember thinking, I think actually everyone feels it, and I feel it sometimes, but then I come back to the word trust that you're doing a good job, and trust that the people that you work with trust and respect you. So the most Ethan Bamber gift ever was this that you gave to me earlier. I get a WhatsApp message last night, do you like marmalade? And actually, funnily enough, that's not the most random question I probably got from you in our time of knowing each other. So this is the most Ethan Bamber gift, but that kind of ties me on nicely to you as a person. There's the Who Is podcast. We openly spoke about earlier in the quickfire questions and stuff like that. You're not a drinker.
No.
Is that because you just don't like drinking? Is that how? I know from my personal experience, cricket's always been finish a game of cricket, smash a load of beers, and I think we spoke about it earlier as well. If you don't do that, you're the kind of a one out. It's kind of like, what do you mean you don't have a beer? Well, I don't want one.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your experience with that. How have you found that throughout your whole time from like club cricket through to pro cricket, that sort of culture?
So I did drink when I was younger, kind of underage, legend.
Yeah.
And then I can't say I really enjoyed the experience massively of that. And then obviously as you come into cricket, you're right, that kind of goes hand in hand with it. And I kind of tossed and turned a lot around it because, as we touched on it, I've always prided myself on trying to take, I really enjoy being a professional cricketer, everything that entails, looking after your body, looking after your mind, as we spoke about, looking after your game. And one of the things that sat really strangely with me was this relationship the game has with alcohol. But then one of the best things about playing cricket is the time you spend
with the boys. You
don't remember wickets, runs, whatever. You remember sitting in the dressing room after a big win.
I do. I don't get many wickets. So.
Yeah, none. And so I kind of thought, well, I want to be part of that, obviously, and that's a really great thing. And sometimes I think you can feel a bit strange if you are the only one not drinking, and I think sometimes people can feel slightly almost judged by you. And I do completely understand that there's this perception almost that one's on a high horse and stuff, and I just really hope that people never feel I'm judging them for their choices. There's a bit of family history with me on one side of my family, and their relationship with alcohol, which has made me feel strange. I didn't grow up around alcohol that much. I love my food, and I'm sure in time I'll come to really enjoy wine with it, maybe.
Of course.
But I have a great time with the guys, with the people, and there's things I'd rather drink, and I guess that's it really. Yes, of course there's an element around looking after my body that sits personally with me, but it's more like I don't really enjoy the feeling of being out of control.
Do you know
that is more me, and I understand that it may be strange to people. I understand that if it makes them feel uncomfortable, I would happily have a conversation with them about it.
Yeah, I think from my experience is, after a game I'll have a couple of beers or whatever. And probably when I was younger, I've never been a massive drinker, but perhaps the culture I've been at, especially at my clubs and some of the unis I've played at, or the uni I've been to and the clubs I've played at, and the guys that I perhaps socialise with, they do like a bit, or two or three or several more.
Yeah.
It has got to a point for me, and I know we've kind of talked about mental health and all that sort of stuff, but someone said to me, and I'd never heard this expression before, hangxiety. I've never heard of that.
That's good.
So my issue with drinking is I do get it can be enjoyable. But I always found the next day I was horrendous. Horrendous.
Everything.
Just a waste of time.
Well, I think people react to it different ways, and as you say, if people want to go after a game and have a load of drinks, that's great. If people want to go out sober, that's also great. What I really struggle with is when it becomes, if you drink you're in, if you don't drink you're out, if you if you do this you're in, if you do
so you have to conform to the norm.
Yeah, because there's something weak about it or something. I tell you, having not drunk, saying to a bunch of blokes, which I had at uni a few times, I'm not drinking when there's 30 people there slamming it, shouting at you, is a lot stronger than having a beer. I tell you that much. So that is rubbish. But I think it's also
we'll beat that one out.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all good.
And it's hard to talk about it without sounding like you're on a high horse, but I really don't it's just my personal decision.
Absolutely.
And I would love to get to a stage. Part of it's connected to my relationship with food, which is an ongoing journey that I know we've spoken about in the
Absolutely,
past.
yeah, of course.
I would love to get to a stage where if I wanted a drink, I could have one and be chill. I'm not quite there yet, but that's just me. But I want to get around the boys. I want to do all those things, and I can do all those things with a Diet Coke in my hand, or with
absolutely.
you know, whatever it might be, and it doesn't have any effect on me as a person or how much I want to win on the field or any of those things. And if you think, if people think that, then I would just politely ask them to reconsider.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've certainly seen a bit of a shift in that. When I mean, again, I've never had the luxury of playing the game professionally, but even when I played club cricket, it was kind of like, you know, I was 17, 18, you make your first team debut, you're going to drink so much that you're going to be in all sorts of pain. And I remember, again, through uni, you know, the whole uni life is, actually thinking back at it now, it's grossly unhealthy. But I've seen a shift, especially in my personal friends group, that I made a conscious decision to, on a trip, we went on a trip, not, annoyingly, not the last one I went on, but one previous to that. I said, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
And 5-6 years ago, they were gone, stop being such a, whatever word we can choose to use. But now they're going, why is that? Is everything okay? And then I sat back and thought about that the other day and thought, that's mega, that's improvement, that's massive. And I think that for me is, I don't know, obviously we've spoken about culture and stuff like that. That seems like that's being transpired into professional lives.
Well, yeah, like my experience, and I do want to say it, is like this environment has been so supportive of me. It's allowed me to be me, talking about drinking now, but in other areas as well.
Yeah.
As a group, we're really close. And what I've realised fundamentally as well is that when you say you don't drink to someone, if you get a reaction at first, if you drill down, they really don't care. Like fundamentally, they don't care, and it doesn't really bother much people. And like when it does, there's probably some, you know, like it may be more to do with them than you. And like I just think, as long as you're comfortable, whether that's drinking 15 pints or half a shandy or whatever it might be, and you know why you're doing that, and then that's great. Absolutely.
That for me probably ties us up quite nicely, because we've obviously covered quite a lot from different angles, and it's great to hear how you're finding in your professional life, in your personal life, what you're doing for other people outside the game, and fundamentally where we're sat now. Well, if heaven was a place on earth, this is it, right? And it's great to hear that culture is, you've kind of gone through that turn, it seems, gone of the days of having a drink at lunch. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing, and that culture seems to have come through. And the thing that when I speak to you and Crackers and anyone else really at the club, there's this unity that's clearly there, and I think that's wicked. That's mega.
It's a really tight bunch of guys, and there hasn't been much personnel change in the last 2 or 3 years. I think, you know, we're under no illusions we haven't played well enough on the pitch, but in terms of an environment to build on, the talent's there, and the really hard thing is there, which I think is those relationships, wanting each other to do well when you're not picked, wanting the guy. Obviously there's a bit of you which just wants to be that person, but also genuinely happy for the person on the field. You don't get that overnight. We have that.
That's amazing. That's very rare.
Yeah, exactly. And I really believe that is a foundation with a better identity on the field, with more direction, and a bit more ambition. Probably we can really push forward. I think,
and that again, on that point, cricket is the most selfish team sport. So to have that ethos and to have that camaraderie, I know camaraderie, I haven't really said that word, but it's great. I'm really pleased that you're happy. You have the luxury of playing the game of cricket as your job, which I know you often say to me, I'm incredibly blessed. So yeah, mate, I think for me, thank you so much for taking the time out of, I know you're getting ready for your game on hopefully you're in for Thursday. So from all of us, we're really grateful for you taking the time to speak so openly about everything that you've gone through, your career, everything moving forward. I think it's been, and hopefully eye-opening for other people to see what a relationship
Yeah.
could be like
Yeah,
between two agents and an agent and a player, and most importantly, mate, we are 100% behind you, hoping you do well this year, and fingers crossed to greater things, and see hopefully some silverware. That would be nice.
That would be lovely. Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Thanks.
So yeah, I think that's kind of probably a nice way to tie it up. But yeah, go well for the rest of the season, and hopefully I'll be sat up on the balcony in my jazz hat and hopefully get loads of wickets. So yeah, we'll probably end it at that point.
Thanks, mate, and I appreciate you.
Nudge.
Thank you.
Cool.
Cheers.